Welcome everyone to Marvel Hub. This is DK Dynamite, and this past weekend during an interview with Karen Gillan, who plays Nebula in the MCU, she made it clear that the script for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has finally been completed, and she was fortunate enough to be sent a good portion of it to read exactly what's going to be going on throughout this film, and she praised it quite a bit. Now, as a bit of a coincidence, a couple of hours after that interview, some leaks began to arise over on 4chan and Reddit that apparently contained leaked plot points for Guardians Volume 3. Now, this originally came out on 4chan, but somebody out there actually reposted this on Reddit, and this person goes by the name of AK2Sup, and this person said that the script was already finished before the Disney and James Gunn dispute, and there were no major changes made to the script except for Gamora's role in the film. Now, I'm not sure why Gamora's role was changed, because James Gunn had a part to play with writing the Guardian scenes in Avengers Infinity War and even Avengers Endgame, which was supposed to tie perfectly into his original Guardians 3 script, but maybe he had some last minute thoughts that could better push the narrative in Guardians 3, since obviously changes were made once that dispute happened with Gunn and Disney, and he then signed on for Suicide Squad with WB, which pushed Guardians 3 back by a couple of years, making it a Phase 5 MCU project now. But jumping into this 4chan leak, this person said that the film is set to release in July 2023, so a couple of years away, but I think with James Gunn revised script, I think it'll make a lot more sense to take place after Thor Love and Thunder, which is exactly what this leak says. It says the movie takes place after Thor 4, and how Thor's role in this film is to be determined by the events of Love and Thunder, though Gunn has a draft without him. So I almost feel like Gunn didn't expect Thor to have such an interesting role in Endgame to the point where Thor joins the Guardians at the end. I think Gunn probably had a big part to play with Infinity War and a majority of Endgame, but I don't think he exactly planned for Thor to join the Guardians at the end, so that probably threw him off. You must have been pissed about that, unless he did have a part to play in it. You know, we'll just have to wait and see, but based on his tweets, it almost seems like he didn't expect Thor to have a role with them at the end, so now he had to make some changes to Guardians 3, but now that that film has been pushed back past Thor 4, he's like, wait a second, now I have to wait for, you know, the Thor 4 script to be done. Maybe Taika Waititi can let me read it so I can then revise Guardians 3 appropriately. But next up, Rocket and the Guardians face the High Evolutionary, who is the creator of Rocket and Lila. So that'll be kind of interesting. Nice dynamic there. Drax adopts a surrogate daughter, Kami, or Kami. Mantis gets jealous at first, but Kami and Mantis form a bond. So that sounds pretty plausible there. It definitely matches the description of these characters, right, and how they act. 2014 Gamora changes her personality similar to Volume 2 Infinity War Gamora after one of the members makes a sacrifice. I'm hearing it's Nebula. So I almost feel like the only character that could make Gamora make a sacrifice is somebody like Quill or Nebula, and it'll probably be Nebula because I could really see the arc of Peter Quill and Gamora coming to a close after Guardians 3. Maybe they live a happy life, you know, go into the sunset together and just live happily with one another, while another group of people kind of reform the Guardians group and then continue that going forward. So that's just my opinion there with the Guardians 3 arc. We then have Quill's Zune music includes hits from 70s, 80s, and 90s. Chris Pratt suggested Fat Quill, but James Gunn turned down the idea. Now, not only would that be a bit redundant, but I also feel like that's already overplayed as it is, and it might offend some people at this point that you're going to make one of the main characters overweight for the sake of doing some big redemption arc, you know, to have him lose weight towards the end. And again, a bit repetitive since Thor just did that a couple of movies ago, and I'm almost positive Thor will have burned that weight by the time Thor Love and Thunder comes out. Maybe they'll show like a little montage of him working out and, you know, shredding all those pounds. So doing that with Quill, it just wouldn't work that well, so I'm glad that he turned that down. So next up we have Aisha creates Warlock to destroy the Guardians, but he rebels against the Sovereigns. He helps the Guardians in the third act. So if you revise the script so that Warlock doesn't necessarily take down the Guardians himself and instead helps them and takes the Sovereigns down, I could see that working. But if Warlock ends up turning on the Guardians and beats their ass, that's where Thor really fits in, right? To match the level of power. And people have pointed that out in the past, that Thor makes the most sense in a movie where an enemy the Guardians are facing is so overpowered to the point where nobody on the Guardians team could even take him on. So that's perfectly where Thor fits in there, and hopefully we see something like like that in the actual movie itself. But as leakers have pointed out, Gunn has multiple versions of the script that could account for Thor or could not account for Thor. So we'll see which one he ends up picking based on the events of Thor: Love and Thunder. And I could also assume that Thor probably won't die in Love and Thunder if he's being considered to be put in Guardians 3 in the first place, right? If he's going to be killed off in Love and Thunder, I'm sure Taika Waititi's like, you can't really work with Thor because this is his last movie. But I'm almost positive Chris Hemsworth isn't ready to put the hammer down just yet, or the axe, I should say. And next up we have the James Gunn has talked to Pete Davidson and John Cena about making cameos after becoming close on the set of the Suicide Squad. So don't be surprised to see those relationships expand past DC, right? I'm sure James Gunn has made many friends working with DC, and I'll probably open them up to opportunities to cameos and even some major roles in the future when it comes to films like Guardians or any other MCU projects he might be working on. Now, I'll be talking about Moon Knight after this script because that obviously is a confirmed Disney Plus series that James Gunn has expressed interest in the past. So next up we have a point about James Gunn, though casting has not begun, has Lucas Till for Adam Warlock, Millie Bobby Brown for Kami, Liam Neeson for the High Evolutionary, and an Oscar-nominated actress for the voice of Lyla in mind when casting begins. So we'll have Rocket finally get a love interest. Hopefully Rocket doesn't die in this film. I don't want any of the Guardians to sacrifice themselves, but it seems like at least one person will, and I'm going to put my bets on Nebula. I almost thought she was going to sacrifice herself in Avengers Endgame, but that didn't happen, so I might be saving that big moment for Guardians 3, which will probably be the last movie Nebula is going to be in. Actresses being considered for the voice of Lyla include Lady Gaga, Helena Bonham Carter, Sandra Bullock, Charlize Theron, and Demi Moore. So if they end up picking Lady Gaga, that's going to be really funny and controversial based on the history and chemistry she had with Bradley Cooper not too long ago that obviously raised speculation that they could have been having an affair, but I don't think that was the case. But it'd be really funny to see Bradley Cooper's Rocket and Lady Gaga's possible Lyla, kicking it off in Guardians 3. But in regards to a Moon Knight, that's the end of the script from 4chan. But since James Gunn himself has said many times in the past that he pitched a Moon Knight script to Marvel, and I think it got approved, I'm almost certain he'll be involved in some way, shape, or form with that Disney Plus project in the near future. Even if he doesn't direct any episodes, maybe he'll produce parts of it, or maybe kind of bridge the gap from a Moon Knight series into an appearance from Moon Knight in future MCU projects, because what's next after this for James Gunn, right? Maybe Suicide Squad's a big hit and they want him to do a sequel to that. That's always possible. When it comes to Marvel, I really do think James Gunn could really handle a big part of the cosmic side of the MCU going forward. You can have him and Taika Waititi team up for some major project in the future. Maybe they can co-direct a movie together, or they can both work together on kind of building towards a bigger universe, even giving them access to some Fox assets like Galactus, Silver Surfer. They could do a lot with those characters. And James Gunn in the past has expressed a lot of interest with handling various Fox assets, which have obviously interacted many times with the Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics. So I think there's so many possibilities going forward. If they end the arc of the Guardians that we know, I think there's still plenty of room left for James Gunn to continue working with Marvel on various other projects. And that raises the question too, when is a good phase to introduce all these Fox assets and Fox characters? And I'm really going to say it's Phase 5. Phase 4 seems to be taking a break from these massive crossovers and these big events, and it seems to be going back to the roots of what the MCU is, establishing new characters, sort of bridging the gap to some newer storylines, passing the mantle on to others. It's going to be a really laid-back phase, still on a smaller scale than a phase like Phase 3, for example, but I think when it comes to Phase 5, we're going to start seeing some massive projects, right? We have Captain Marvel 2, Black Panther 2, Guardians 3, and so many major projects that many of us out there are definitely not ready for. But I think when it comes to Taika Waititi and James Gunn, there's a lot of work left for them when it comes to all the assets they originally did not have access to in the past. They can do stuff with Beta Ray Bill, Adam Warlock, Galactus, Silver Surfer. Maybe we'll see Fantastic Four get thrown into the mix at some point. You have Deadpool that may end up getting a series, or a Deadpool 3 at some point. There are so many damn things happening with the MCU, and I think Phase 4 is going to be a pretty laid-back phase. A lot of projects that are on a bit of a smaller scale, but still exciting, still fun, still promising. You got some really cool stuff with Disney Plus happening, but then when Phase 5 comes out, you're going to start seeing some major build-up towards the next Endgame level event, which might take, 6 or 8 years to really establish and build up again, but I think whatever they do next is going to be just as big, if not bigger, than what they did with Avengers Endgame. But that is about it. This has been DK Dynamite. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn notifications on to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Marvel news and information. What do you think about the apparent leaked script from 4chan? Is it legit? Are people just making shit up just because the headlines are reporting that Karen Gillan is confirming the Guardians 3 script is finished? Leave all your thoughts down below. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everyone.